Right.
and we will get right into it. So today, what we're going to do just a real quick meet and greet. I know you already know the two, you already know myself, but we'll just give you both the opportunity to introduce yourself to each other, both from the fashion program. You may have come across each other at some point, but maybe not, because I believe Tiago, you're in your last semester and about to graduate, and Kaleiki, you are in, I think you have a couple semesters coming up after this, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I'm in my second year. So
Right.
I'm about to
Okay.
start second year rather. Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, okay.
So so then we'll go over a little bit about what Leap Junction is, what we do in general, both inside and outside of this program. We'll go over entrepreneurial co-op, both in related to your hours of work, the schedule of workshops, some readings from a textbook. There is a textbook in this program, as well as your entrepreneurial contract, and then some of your homework for after today's session and kind of throughout today's program. Again, I'll be sending you guys a long email with all the resources and links and things that I mentioned. So if you do miss something today, you'll have the recording, but you'll also be getting an email from me very shortly after today's session. So really
Okay.
quickly, just to give us a little bit of familiarity, we'll kind of maybe start with myself and Lindsay, and then pass it over to the two of you. So I mean, you both know me. My name is Nick Klimbicki. I'm one of the business consultants at Leap Junction. My program of study when I was in school was actually not related to business at all. I did an undergrad in psychology and criminology with a minor in business and then a master's in sociology. After I completed my education, I ended up working in the nonprofit sector, but I learned pretty quickly nonprofits, those positions and pay is a little bit lower than I had likely hoped for. So I ended up transitioning to working at Fanshawe. I had a background doing some construction and manufacturing, and I got into the St. Thomas campus, and it ultimately landed me here at Leap. So I'm not currently running any businesses myself. In the past, I've been always a side hustler, doing outdoor odd jobs, mowing lawns, shoveling snow, painting buildings, apartments, things like that. And currently, I'm enjoying the 9 to 5. The extra effort and the uncertainty of entrepreneurship, I had decided wasn't for me over the course of my years, but ultimately, it is something that I always look forward to, coaching and assisting people with as they start their journey, either for the first time, second, third, or whatever it is. So my dream job is actually probably the no job. If I could and travel the world and do things like that outside of working, that would be amazing. But I will say my job at Fanshawe has given me a lot of fulfillment. My favorite food right now, I would say, if you were talking about like kind of fast food, I'm a big Osmos guy, chicken on the rocks. Probably the most consistent thing I always get. And a fun fact that surprises people about me, I'd say I'm getting probably close to the 50% of my body being tattooed. I'm probably in like kind of the
Gee, word.
40% range. Yeah, I don't have any on
That's
like
kind of
my
fire.
on my hands or my neck or face or anything like that. But I do have that as a personal thing for myself where I'm probably about 40-ish%, but I plan to be quite a bit more
That's so
over the
fire.
future.
That's so fire.
Thanks, Thiago. I'm glad you think that that's pretty cool.
Of
Um,
course, yeah.
all right, I'll pass it over to Lindsay. So maybe Lindsay, if you want to do the same, and then we'll go to Kayleiki and Tiago, and then we can get into today.
All right, perfect. You can hear me okay?
Sure.
hmm
All right, perfect. So again, Lindsay Martins, I'm a co-op consultant. And like Nick had mentioned, I kind of overlook the freelance just on the back end and then, or sorry, entrepreneurial, and then I do the freelance co-ops as well. So I have a 3-year advanced diploma in business admin HR, and I'm also a part-time student right now doing my Bachelor of Commerce HR with Fanshawe. Um, Prior to coming to Fanshawe, I was in human resources. So I spent 7 years as a human resources manager at an automotive dealer or a tractor dealership, and wanted a change and came to Fanshawe in the co-op role, which was exciting because I had co-op students when I was an HR manager, and I also was a co-op student when I started my career. So it was kind of a nice 360 full circle of my career, being able to start as a co-op student and now as a co-op consultant, which is great. My husband also owns a business. They started out with 2 employees, and now they're at 11 employees. And just got off the phone with him as he's talking about buying another company to amalgamate. So we'll see if that happens and all of the excitement that goes along with that. So have some sort of experience in the entrepreneurial world and doing that. My dream job, kind of similar to Nick, would be no job, but on I live on 8.5 acres, so it would become like having my animals and growing my vegetables and doing kind of like home craft type things, making candles and all of that stuff would kind of be the dream. Favorite food, I guess, a meat and potatoes type of person. I do love a good steak, which was what I had for Mother's Day yesterday. Fun
Mm.
fact that surprises people. Um, I love to travel, and when I travel, I like to find the cheapest flights that I can possibly get.
Yes.
And I'm always a person that people go to find cheap flights. For instance, I just found $348 flights to France, so I booked
Oh,
those.
I
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So 348 included luggage. So all I had to pay for was
oh
seats.
wow. How many check
Wow.
bags?
Pardon?
How many check bags?
One carry-on and one checked bag.
Oh, that's
Hmm.
fire.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
348 round trip on air transit, which yeah, I had to book it immediately. So
Of course.
but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. So
Oh, and I'm
maybe
also in bed because I got surgery last week on my foot. So that's also exciting. And fun fact is that I am currently in a bed.
that's funny. Thanks, Lindsay.
No problem.
And maybe let's pass it just because in order of who's on my screen, Kayleigh, I'll pass it over to you. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, am I mispronouncing that or did I pronounce it correctly this time?
You are kind of, but well, you see. My name is Kelechi, not Keleki. Kelechi.
Kayleigh, sorry.
Yes, Chi, yes. Kelechi Okere. I'm Nigerian, and I have a law degree. I never used it. I did the
Oh
entire
wow.
5 years. And while I was in my second year, I realized it was a mistake, but I was too afraid to tell my father that I couldn't go with it because in my culture, you were either a doctor, you were a lawyer, or you're an engineer. So anyway, so while I was in school, I figured I wasn't very good at it. So I realized, oh, I think I can, because I had an idea of how to tell tailors how to make my clothes back then. So I picked up Natalie Bray, and that's what I textbooks, and I taught myself pattern making. So by my final year, I was making skirts for people. I was picking up fabrics and making skirts, and then they kept on. And then I went, and then they somehow my father moved to another state in Nigeria. So I bought a couple of machines. I put it in the house, and the business started. But it was such a headache. And then somehow I never got to be as wealthy as I never got to be wealthy. Like I thought I was going to be wealthy. So I have 3 children. My first daughter is starting her master's in September. And my son is in starts third year engineering. Then I have my almost 13-year-old here living in Canada. So and after a while, when you're running a business, I was everything. I have staffers, but somehow I was HR, I was a creative person, I was the accountant. It was just everywhere, and somehow I got burnt out. So my son came to Canada. I thought to myself, this boy's alone, this continent. Why don't I just come to school, so I can be closer to him? So I decided I was going to do fashion design. I thought to myself, I'd already taken a couple of courses in London College of Fashion back in 2019. But I thought all the problems that I was having, most of them were not in the creative. There was more, in the business side. So here I am in Fanshawe. The fun fact is that when I came to Fanshawe, I just wanted to go to school and be quiet. I just wanted to have a quiet time, not work, not do anything. But somehow this business still caught up. And I thought to myself, why don't you start something else, with the knowledge that you're learning instead of waiting and somehow you'd have forgotten? Why don't you just start? So that's why here I am trying to start something new, even though I came here to run away from my business. But here I am again, starting again. So I don't have a dream job. I've never ever thought of working for anyone. I like the freedom of, making decisions. I can do anything I like. I can go anywhere I like. I can work from anywhere. I like it. But when I was younger, I used to say, oh, I want to make my own money. But at this age right now, I wish I could be a kept woman. I wish I had a billionaire husband who would pay for trips, who would do everything. I don't want to work anymore. I wish I said that. I wish when I was younger, I could have said, "Oh, I'm going to work very hard, but I have a billionaire husband. Maybe I'll have a billionaire husband in dollars, not in local Nigerian money." So, favorite food, I eat bread a lot. I love bread. It doesn't like me, but I like it. And then, fun fact: when people see me and I tell them I can use like an industrial machine, I can cut, and maybe 90% of my clothes are made by me. They're always very shocked, but it's the truth. I make most of my clothes. So that's it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kelechi.
Sure.
That's really cool to know. And I actually, when I went to school, I dreamed of going to law school and doing the lawyer thing too. But that was why I chose my undergrad the way I did. By the time when I got ready to apply to law schools, and I ended up having like an internship lined up, and I was like, you know what? I don't dream of working 60, 70 hours of work per week. So I totally get where you're coming from there. I'm sure it's quite a different experience in your case, but it's definitely not for everybody. So I'm glad that you're on the
Yeah,
path
it's not.
now to following your passions. And it sounds like entrepreneurship just followed you around the world and caught up to you eventually, but maybe that's just means that, it's meant to be. So that's really cool. Thank you for
I
sharing.
reckon so. Sure. Thank you.
All right, Tiago, you're up. And maybe if you want to flip on your camera for us too, so we can
Yeah,
see that face.
I was just gonna get to that actually.
Awesome.
Okay, what's up, guys?
Good.
Um, so my name Tiago Pacera, first generation Portuguese. Yeah, it's a little bit about me. Program of study, obviously fashion design, and just finished my third year, which felt like the biggest weight off my shoulders, and then an even bigger one came down on my shoulders a week after. So yeah, so I'm just trying to navigate all that. Business idea is, to one day start my own business. For the co-op, it's obviously going to be like my little tailoring services, my one-of-one creation services. Um, Dream job, I would probably have to say something along the same lines as you guys, whatever's gonna pay for me to see the world for real. Matter. Obviously, I would love for it to be within fashion, even if it's not making designing, as long as it's somewhere within the fashion industry. If I can see the world and see places I've never seen because of fashion, if that can allow me to do that, then that would be my dream job. Um, Favorite food, dang, I don't even know. Probably some like buffalo wings. I don't know. I love hot wings. Um, and then fun fact that surprises people about you. Honestly, probably that probably same as you, like probably like that I can work in an industrial machine and that I can actually sew my own clothing. Because, you know, sometimes when people see me, I don't know, they judge a book by a cover, I think,
Sure.
and so I think they see, oh, maybe, yeah, no, he doesn't look like he can sew his own clothes, this and that. But yeah, I can, what do you want me to make? I'll make it for you. So yeah. So I think that's a fact that surprises people about me is, I can
I
really, I yeah,
I love
yeah,
it. Thanks, Tiago. It's good
yeah,
to see that, we're both kind of smashing stereotypes here where people are thinking, oh, there's no way this person can make their own clothes. I love to see it that you're not letting that kind of,
yeah.
other people's thoughts influence you. And if the dream for everybody here is, to be able to get to a point where maybe we don't have to work, maybe we can have more leisure time, it sounds like entrepreneurship is the right place for the two of you. While it might
Hmm.
take some time to get to that point where you can step away from the business and let other people do some of that work. This is the first step to being able to kind of fulfill that part of your dream. So for today, we're going to start with now just a little bit about what Leap Junction is in general, because I know both of you were later applicants to this program and you had maybe some questions about who we are, what we do, both inside and outside of this program. So I'll start there and then jump really into the specifics of Entrepreneurial Co-op for the next couple of months. So Leap Junction, we are both for current students, but we're also for alumni. So the good news is, if the two of you are planning to, continue to work on this business into the future, you don't lose access to us after you graduate or after this semester. We work with people who graduated 10, 15 years sometimes ago. But we're for those students and alumni, even the occasional faculty or staff member that's ever dreamed of starting their own business. They had an idea they want to develop, or they just generally feel like they have what it takes to be an entrepreneur and run a business, even if they don't necessarily have an idea. So, it's important to know that it doesn't have to be this big tech growth business that a lot of people kind of associate with business entrepreneurship centers. It could be a side hustle, a hobby project, a business that's just for yourself to become self-employed. We really work with anybody as long as entrepreneurship and working for yourself and starting something is what kind of that vision is for yourself. We're what we call industry agnostic. So it doesn't matter, again, the type of business. It could be in fashion, manufacturing, landscaping, HR, whatever it is. We are the place to kind of help you with that business general knowledge. So LEAP actually stands for Leadership, Entrepreneurship, Alliances, and Passion. And those are kind of like the main values that we hold at our center and try to integrate into a lot of our learnings. So the fun little analogy that we kind of use is that, it starts with an idea, the two of you, hence why you applied to this program. And we kind of act as the extension cord to help you connect with different resources, education, or people in the community to help you create light and really make that business come to life. So the next question we always get is, who do we work with in terms of like stage of development? Can it be an idea I had yesterday? Can it be something I'm already working on or in business for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? So it's important to know that while we are what's called a mixed use early stage incubator, so meaning we kind of focus on, click too many times, the first couple of stages of business development. So by either having or coming up with an idea, conceptualizing that initial idea, and then committing and validating. So with being in the entrepreneurial co-op program, both of you have an idea, you have some concepts, you're able to submit and show that during your interview process. And now we're getting to the point where we're both committing and trying to validate the thing that we want to create and sell out on the market. It definitely doesn't mean that we don't work with people once they get to scaling or establishing and looking for consistency within their business. It just happens to be that when you're in a college with younger students or people who have run businesses internationally and then moving to Canada, we tend to see the most in these kind of first 4 stages. So what we do kind of more specifically, so first and foremost, we educate, we're part of the college, so that's the main thing that we do. We do that through our workshops, which you'll both get a healthy dose of over the course of the summer through myself. We do one-on-one mentorship and business coaching, as well as we have our business accelerator program, which I'll touch on a little bit later, as well as the entrepreneurial co-op program that you're both enrolled in. We try to foster and facilitate a culture of entrepreneurship on campus because when you're starting your business, likely you're a team of 1 or maybe 2 people, and it can feel largely like it's kind of you against the world. It's you trying to figure out how to do all this and navigate the entrepreneurial landscape, find your customers, figure out your market and your competition. And that a lot of the times can feel very lonely. So we try to create opportunities on campus for students to come and feel welcomed into our office space in F1043, but also different events throughout the year that I'll touch on as well on a couple of future slides. But we do have that physical space. I know, I believe, Tiago, in your case, you're not physically in London. I think you're back in KW now. But for yourself, Kelechi, our office is open Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. So if you are trying to get out of your house and look for a place to work, that is an option, even with this being an online delivered program. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it is pretty well kind of spoken for, but the Mondays and Fridays, it is wide open to you if you do want to get out of your house and maybe work within our office space. And then,
thank you.
Yeah. And then finally, we try to connect our entrepreneurs within the local community because we work within a really cool ecosystem of entrepreneurial support organizations. And Leap Junction in London is not necessarily the only one who does so. So, if there is ever a time where you're working with myself or someone from my team and you have questions maybe that we can't fully answer, then we would lean on that network, make referrals where necessary, and we always cross promote different opportunities and events from some of these organizations. So I'll touch on that later actually, but the one thing to keep in mind with kind of like the role that I will play kind of throughout your entrepreneurial co-op work term is that of a business generalist. You know, I am not a fashion designer, and I've heard from fashion students that my fashion probably could be updated a little bit, which they said so subtly and nicely. But so where that role that I can kind of fulfill is, you know, with that business general knowledge, you know, like how do I start my business? How do I find my customers? How do I validate maybe rough building of your first website? You know, marketing, branding, basic financials, things like that. That's the stuff that I can help kind of fulfill. And, you know, Kalechi, it's something that you actually identified. You know, creativity and making was not the problem. It was the business element of it and how to kind of find that stability that way. So that is very much the role I can fulfill. Where I might not be able to answer as many questions as if, you know, you have industry specific ones around sewing, fashion, or if that specific topic. We do actually have a temporary advisor this summer. Her name is Nicole Snobelin, who has offered to make herself available if there is any questions that either the two of you may have in regards to building a fashion business specifically, because she has been running a couple of different fashion businesses for the last probably 10 years or so. And I'm happy to make that introduction if you feel it's necessary once we get into the semester. And if you have more questions, I can't specifically answer. So how it works for meeting and working with Leap Junction outside of programming is normally we try to do like really quick intake meetings where we learn about your idea and your business, assess your needs, and then figure out how we can help you the best and schedule meetings at kind of at your own pace. Now through this program and the interview process, we've essentially already started to kind of complete some of that intake meeting, which I'll follow up on at the end of today, or then you can see how you'll book with me and likely get started with that one-on-one coaching and scheduling the meetings at your own pace, which we will have at a minimum about once per month. But it is by no means limited to only that. You'll have access to me both before and after workshops, and if you need more as well throughout the term. So a couple of additional things that we do, because I mentioned, you know, we try to create that culture of entrepreneurship on campus. So to watch for into future semesters, summer tends to be a little bit slower in terms of events and opportunities that we create on campus. But for both current students and alumni, the two of you, you know, we do host different events throughout the year that you're more than welcome to attend, either while students or as graduates. We host different marketplace events, both in the summer, spring, and usually around Christmas time. And we have an application process for that. So if either the two of you ever were thinking of getting into pop-ups, maybe you wanted to test the setup and just see, while students on campus at Pancha might not be your direct customer base, can just be a good way to try to work through those motions and see what setting up your first pop-up may be like. We host different events and networking opportunities through Global Entrepreneurship Week in November. And we host what's called Startup Support Hour a couple times a month to just bring different people together, both to ask, you know, preliminary questions about starting a business, but also just meet other people that are doing something similar or completely different than them in terms of starting their own business. We actually have one this afternoon. If you're both welcome to join, as well as we have them on the 26th. Can be a way to ask again some questions, but also just meet other people who are Fanshawe affiliated and trying to run their own business. In the winter term, we have what is called the Libro Business Plan Challenge, which is a 2-round pitch competition. So this one is only for current students. So Tiago, it wouldn't be applicable to you after you graduate. But you know, you can see that there are different pitch competitions out in the community as well, especially in the KW area. But for Kalechi, for your information, this is a pitch competition where the first round is a 5-minute pre-recorded pitch for your business or business idea. Then a panel of judges selects the top 10 to move on to a second and final round where they can pitch live to the same panel of judges in a little bit longer of a format for cash prizes. First place being $1,500, second place $1,000, third place $750. So it is an opportunity to, you know, get tangible feedback, but also earn a little bit of money to put towards your business's spending or pay your rent if you so decide to use the money. So watch for that in the new year as well. We're going to be kind of experimenting in the next couple of years or the next couple of terms with shorter form pitch competitions too. So if it's just about an opportunity to get more comfortable talking about your business, even that can be a good use of time. And if it's open to alumni, just watch for that as well. Yeah. So the last piece of what I mentioned was, you know, that community connection. So I'm not going to go through each different organization here and how they can assist you. But the point really is just to demonstrate that there are lots of organizations within the London area that do support entrepreneurs and a lot of them doing it for free in a lot of capacity. So while again, Tiago, this might not be as applicable to you because you're in KW, there are small business centers in every kind of major city. There are Tech Alliance comparables. Futurepreneur is one that works with people all across Canada. And there's plenty of other places to just go and look for support. Pillar Nonprofit and Innovation Works work with social enterprises, nonprofits, charities. The city of which you reside, so in the city of London, can help with, like permits, licenses, or additional things that you may need depending on the type of business you run, as well as just hosting networking events kind of through all of these organizations that we always cross promote on our events page on our website. So where we are, as I mentioned, we're in F1043 in Innovation Village. So if you're in H hallway, kind of walking down past the Starbucks through that building, if you keep going straight, you'll come to these big glass doors next to one of the student study areas, and our office is right there. Again, Fridays 8:30 to 4:30. So we do have some kind of like communal workspace. We have meeting rooms and a bit of a small library that we kind of lend books out to on our own kind of terms. So if there is ever the time where you are on campus or trying to get out of your house, it is an opportunity to work there. But again, we have another program that runs Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday out of that space. So in the summers, Mondays and Fridays, but winter and fall terms, it's free game. All right. So let's now get into, specifically what we're probably both here for is, the entrepreneurial co-op and how it works. So as you both know through the application process, this was an opportunity for you to explore entrepreneurship while, still earning credit that's related to your program of study. So as you both are aware, this is an unpaid program. We're not paying you a regular hourly wage, but it is something where if you were able to make sales, which is the goal over the course of this term, then that money is obviously yours to complete, to keep in entirety. I will say too, though, it isn't that you have to earn a certain amount of money or make a certain number of sales in order to be successful in this program. As long as we see effort and development, and whether that is success or failure, or making small mistakes along the way, that does not mean that if you don't earn a certain amount of money, you don't pass this program. I have had students who pass very impressively, even though they earned very little money throughout the term. So that is not necessarily the goal in order to pass this program. So obviously you get to work on your own business for your co-op credit rather than somebody else's, which is great because we both kind of have those entrepreneurial dreams to be able to work for themselves into the future. And then you're supported by a community mentor if you feel like you need one or looking for one, Leap Junction, and your co-op consultants throughout this program, and you'll work within a relatively small cohort this summer and attend workshops and hopefully learn from one another and interact along the way. So how this kind of works in terms of process. So first and foremost, if you have not already completed your work term agreement, that is something that I believe would need to be completed ASAP. If you haven't, I believe I completed my section for Kelechi. Tiago, do you know if you've connected and started to work on your work term agreement?
I honestly think Tracy sent me an email a bit ago,
Okay.
telling me to complete it, and I think what I left blank was who my employer was, and I wasn't sure if like I was supposed to put you or like
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I will go back and just fill in that little section. Yeah.
Yeah, so you would put myself, and then when you hit
But you,
submit, it gets triggered and then like sent to me to fill out like all the information. So if you
okay,
can just go and fill that in, just put my name and like that's really all you got to do, and you can hit submit,
for sure.
and then it should come to me. Maybe Lindsay, if you can forward Tiago some instructions about how to do that. I think we have like the specific steps to take.
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, we still got time. It's not that we're late by any means. I think we have a couple of weeks to complete them, but it's just that's to get
Yeah,
them
I
out of the
think
way so they're not
yeah.
forgotten.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. So as well, you'll be trying to complete 420 hours of self-employed work over the course of this term, which equates to full-time employment. Well, if you do the math, this is 16 weeks that you're working with us, and if you did the math, that does not work out to being 40 hours per week. It's more kind of in the 30 hours of work per week range that you would try to strive for. I'll be sharing how we track that information in a couple of different slides. So the important thing to know, though, is that, that 420 hours, it's not 420 hours spent earning revenue or making sales from customers. It's 420 hours of self-employed work, which definitely does encompass that, working in your business, making sales, working with clients, tailoring, developing different products for them. But it also is encompassing of working on your business, which is distinctly different. So that's where myself and this program come in to fill that gap. So working on your business is where, you're taking meetings with your coach or a mentor, or maybe meeting with each other to bounce ideas off of one another. It's when you're completing market research, doing some business planning exercises that I will be assigning to you over the course of this term, attending workshops, this orientation included. So there's your first hour if you haven't already started doing work. Working on social media, doing research on social media, working and creating your brand, as well as reading some of those text readings. So while 420 hours may seem like a lot, once it's broken down into encompassing both working in and on your business in this program, it really does add up super quickly. So we already touched on the work term agreement. We can skip over that, but this is where you submit your 3 learning outcomes that you hope to complete over the course of the term. You'll have the employer section, which is filled out by myself, and ideally we'll get those completed by the end of the month. The next piece that is specific to this program is the Entrepreneurial Co-op student contract. So this is something that's filled out by myself, each student, and then usually co-signed by Lindsay, the Entrepreneurial Co-op lead on the co-op side. So I will send this to you over email after today's session, where you can look at it, because it outlines the student responsibilities to the program, as well as what my specific roles and responsibilities are to you in this program. So it's something where it's not quite communicated properly through the traditional work term agreement, because entrepreneurship being different. So I'll send that over to the 2 of you. And if you have any questions before you do sign it, all you got to do is ask. I'm happy to talk over the phone, or we can have a quick Zoom call to answer any questions that you may have. But it's very standard of just, attending the meetings that you book with me, attending the workshops, completing your assignments. It just lays it out really specifically. It also shows how to book a meeting with instructions that way. There's a privacy and confidentiality agreement. Anything that you do share with myself about your business or yourself personally in those one-on-one meetings will be kept private and confidential. The only time where maybe I may share information about you is if I'm connecting you with another business owner, another organization, or someone who I feel can help you in regards to your business. But I'll always ask before making that connection. There is a removal policy in it. If you ghost me and I don't hear from you for the next 10 or 15 weeks, then that's definitely a problem. And then this contract will be then uploaded to Orbis by Lindsay with your work term agreement as well. So I'll be sending those over to you. They're very basic. They're not intimidating, as I'm maybe making it sound right now. It really just outlines what our responsibilities are to one another throughout this term. Next, then, is the work and activity log. So with you being self-employed, a lot of your learning and working over the course of this term will be individually. Now, as I mentioned, though, you can still include those group things like orientations, workshops, and things like that. I will be submitting to you over email, in this onboarding email, a entrepreneurial timesheet. So this will be where essentially you're tracking your hours of work that you do daily throughout this program, and then it will auto add them up to ideally accumulate 420 hours by the end of the summer term. So it's very simple in design, and you can feel free to edit it and change it, or give yourself more space if you want to add more activity descriptions. But essentially each day, all you're inputting is your start time of working, your finish time, the activity description that you're working on or what you completed, and then the total number of hours worked each day. They'll add up themselves. There's a calculator in the timesheet that I'll give you, and by the end of the term, give you that 420 hours. Now, with this, I always get the question of, okay, so outside of the workshops that are pre-scheduled in our meetings, do I have to work 9 to 5, 8:30 to 4:30 throughout the day? And the answer is no, you do not. If you find that you do work better from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. or from midnight until 5 a.m., that is okay. Just noting that, if that's the time where you're choosing to work and do things on your business, obviously I won't be able to answer emails or phone calls at those points in time. And you would still be ultimately responsible to attend the workshops, which will largely be Mondays from 10 to 12. So don't feel like you have to only work 8:30 to 4:30 or 9 to 5 or something like that. And you are also allowed to count work that's done on weekends. So if you feel like, your Saturdays are the day when you get the most done because your friends have time off on Mondays and Tuesdays, again, that's okay as long as you're attending that workshop Monday morning. You get to kind of make your own schedule with this and track how.
I have a I just have a quick question about this one.
Yeah.
So like I'm just kind of like assuming for like what the next like what the co-op term is going to look like for me. Like I'm assuming there's going to be days where like I'm going up to London for the whole day and then coming home at night and then kind of just like maybe I'll take that day. So like does it do I have to do something every single day? Like if I go to London one day for like whatever, if I get there in the morning and then I'm leaving late at night, but like that 12-ish hours I finish like whatever, like
Mhm.
3 different little projects that I had to finish. And then that next day, like I'm just kind of coming home and then, like, does something have to be done every day, or is it as long as I'm finishing that 420
Yes.
before that?
As long as you're finishing the 420 hours by the end of the term, Tiago, it's really
Okay.
up to you. Like I'll
Okay.
go over in a couple of slides, like the things that are pre-scheduled, which is largely just the workshops and the meetings and the assignments. But
Mhm.
outside of that, if you want to work 12 hours every other day, that's up to you to make that decision. Again, just ultimately
Okay.
making sure that you're available for those days.
For
And
sure.
in terms of like, you mentioned traveling to London. This program is online delivered in entirety. So like
Mhm.
you don't have to attend London or come to campus for anything that I'm doing with you specifically.
Of
But
course,
if
yeah.
you have things that you're doing in London for your own business, yeah, absolutely. You can count that time and you can also count the travel there from London to Kitchener.
So, okay, so I was gonna wait till later to ask this question, but since you brought it up, so say like for example, if I have a client that wants like something specific and I like a specific something made out of a specific fabric, let's say, and I know I can get that specific fabric at a fabric store that maybe is like 35, 45 minutes away from me. Like, am I count like do I like should I count that travel time? Like, because
Yeah,
I
you can
didn't
you
think
can
I would.
count that travel time, Tiago. I would say with just kind of the asterisks of travel time shouldn't be taking up, a extremely large amount of your time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like,
Okay.
absolutely, if you know, like for example, of a good fabric supplier that's in Toronto, and you want
Mm,
to go there, a couple times a month to be able to get things to create your creations for your customers, you can count that travel time because when you're working within your business, like that's time and money that you're spending. Like, that's
right,
an expense that you're incurring. So I would
right.
count that. But if you have, for example, let's say you have 4 hours of travel 2 times a week for the entirety of the term,
Yeah.
that's when I might be a little bit more, okay, Tiago, like how much are we really traveling here?
Right, right,
But
right, right.
yeah, if it's
Okay.
35, 40 minutes to go to the fabric store, pick up what you need, come home, and then start working, you can count that time too because you're starting
Okay.
work when you get in your car and travel to that store.
Okay, cool. That's great to know, honestly. Okay,
Okay,
cool.
I have a question.
Yes.
Um, in describing activity, like for example, this morning, no, yesterday, I had a meeting with my website developer, and we talked about, creating the new website, and then eventually hosting the old one on the new one. You're getting a domain that can, that
Mhm.
can host three sites at the same time. And then then I'm trying to create a new Facebook page, an Instagram page for the new business. And then I think about it. And then this morning I woke up because he's not in Canada. I woke up and I just had a meeting with him. Then I had
Yeah.
a meeting with the person who manages, the content on the website, and I do all of that. So how do I how do I describe it?
Yes. That's it. Okay. That's a great
I
point.
didn't time it. I was just having a normal day.
I
Yeah.
so with that, I think I mentioned in like the first email I sent out, like you could count things that so you started working on from the May 6th, because the May 6th was like the first official day of the term, even though our programming didn't commence until today. So if you didn't time it,
Mhm.
go with best guess for now. Like, I mean, if it was 2 hours, don't estimate 10. Again, just, being realistic, but count all that time,
Yeah.
and you can type on more than one lines in the activity description. When you click away, it'll likely go back to just the single line, but you'll share this timesheet with me. So like myself, Lindsay, and Tracy can all kind of see it at the same time. And we can click on those activity descriptions and see what's in there. So if you have, today it was orientation 1 hour from 10 to 11, and then you had your website developer meeting from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. or whatever it was. You can include as much in there as you'd hope to. Ultimately, the start time and finish time is really just for, the first thing I did that day for my business and the last thing I did. And the activity description is for
Okay.
everything else that's in between if it wasn't just one thing you were working on that
Sure.
whole day.
I understand.
If
Thank
you're
you.
not positive, go best guess, kind of rounding up to the half hour. And then if I have any problems, or if Tracy or Lindsay, we see something where we're like, that doesn't really make sense, we'll always reach out to you and just ask for a bit of a description more or a quick
Mm.
conversation, and we'll get it hashed out. But yeah, you guys can count anything that you've done from May 6th. So I believe that's last Tuesday, until today, up until the end of the term, even when our workshops end. You have a couple of, I think there's still a week and a half for the end of the term to hit
Sure.
that 420 hours. And
Okay.
again, we're not going to be awful to you if you hit like 410 hours or something over the course of the term and you're falling like a little bit short. Where it would be more of a serious conversation is if you're at like, 250 with a week left in the term or something like
Yeah.
that. But if you're at
Okay.
400 and there's 2 days left, I don't expect you to work 40 hours over the course of 3 days. It's we're flexible people here, and we understand that your schedules will likely change too, as you have different things or commitments as well. And as long as you're just being honest and tracking it as best you can, we shouldn't have any problems with it.
I, I have two just quick questions
Yeah.
about just docking hours and stuff. So the
Mhm.
first one is, how should we go about, like, so say, like, I'm using like London as an example again. Like, say if I go to London from like 10 a.m. to whatever 9 p.m. and I'm there at the school that whole time. Obviously, like, I'm gonna need to eat something, or like
Definitely.
there's gonna be the odd time where I check my phone and maybe I'm on it for a little longer than I should be. Like, how should we go about, like, kind of like, should we kind of like plan out, like, okay, like, I'm gonna take a 30-minute break right now and I'm gonna dock that? Like, how should we go about
Mhm.
doing that?
I think, if you're going to be, if you're, so Tiago, if you're going to be striving to work kind of like 7, 8 hours a day, and like, obviously, yes, I would expect you to have a lunch. Just try to plan as best you can and have that time set aside. So, if you take an hour because you want to eat for 30 minutes, go for a walk around campus to stretch your legs and then come back, that's okay. But like, I'm not going to be there looking over your shoulder to be like, Tiago, get off your phone, or
Right, right,
Tiago, you spend an hour and 10 minutes on lunch instead of an hour.
right.
A big piece of this, is it's holding yourself accountable to the things that you say you're going to do. So, if you're on your phone and you get into a TikTok, hole, and you start scrolling and you're like, oh shit, 45 minutes went by, then
Yeah,
okay, you have to be able to kind of police yourself in that sense. And that's a
right,
big piece of what this is. Like, in theory you could take advantage of that, but
right,
are you really helping yourself out at all if you are just writing things down and not actually working? No.
for sure.
I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
if it's a problem, or like, again, if I have a concern about like how much time you're tracking versus the amount of work that's being completed, a big reason of why we have our check-ins on a scheduled basis is because, like, if you have nothing to talk about in your meeting, but you're writing on your timesheet that you're working 8 hours a day, then, that's where I might be like, okay, like, what's really going on here? So as long
Right.
as you
Okay.
have things that you can show me you've completed in your one-on-ones, and you have questions and things to talk about, I'm
Hmm.
not going to be overly concerned. I think,
Okay.
in terms of like breaks though, I would, if you thrive in routine, I would try to set out your days then and be like, okay, I'm going to work from 9:30 to 12 each day. I'm going to take a 1 hour lunch, and then I'm going to work from 1 until 4. If that's
Okay.
how you kind of know you work best. Personally, that's
Okay.
what I would do. But,
Yeah.
again, in Kalechi's situation, she's working with a web developer who's not in the country. She's going to be waking up at 3 a.m. some days to take a meeting. So that's just kind of the reality of the situation.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. And I thought I had a second question now, but it must have just left my mind. It'll come back
Okay.
to me. But
If it comes back,
for
yeah,
sure.
if it comes back, don't be afraid to ask. And like, as things come up throughout the term, like, I'm a quick email away at all times. So all you got to do
Mhm.
is shoot me a message and be like, hey, Nick, I'm going to this networking event today. It's a social thing, but there's going to be a lot of people from the fashion industry there. Does this count? And I'll be like, okay, send me the ad for the event or whatever it is, and we can kind of make that decision together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
like because
okay, cool.
networking is going to be a part of this. So, if you're going to an event where there's going to be fashion people there and you're there not to, get drunk and just have fun, if you're there to talk to people and actually meet people and find customers, that can be time spent working. And maybe it's the first half of the event you do that, and then the second half you're having fun and you don't track that on your time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cool. Okay,
awesome.
cool.
All right.
And again, if anything comes up, just ask, and I'll tell you very bluntly, yes or no, if I think that counts. So,
Okay.
okay. And then the next piece of that is, there is a paired textbook for this program, which I know, I think in Tiago, in your case, one of the things you mentioned, you were happy to not to be doing homework and have your nose in a book. And this is one kind of thing that you're going to be doing over the term, but it is really, again, for your own development. So there are going to be some entrepreneurial readings, are what they're called throughout this program, and it's with a digital textbook. I'm not expecting you guys to purchase a $200 textbook. I will send you a copy of the digital version as a PDF for free. In this textbook, there is some activities as well as some readings. The readings, which I've outlined with your schedule, will kind of pair with the workshops for that week. I'll go over that in more detail in a bit. But what this is meant to do is to help supplement those workshops with finer details, more learning, and some activities that you can do for yourself over the course of the term, which again have been digitized and you can pre-download and work on them on your computer or print them out if you're more of a pen and paper kind of person. These activities, if you complete them over the course of the term, would essentially give you a full traditional business plan. What you would be doing in our one-on-one coaching sessions and in our workshops is more of a lean startup approach, which is the step before traditional business planning. While traditional business planning is still very much important and it's something that a lot of people need because they just think more long form and it helps them organize their thoughts, what I will be kind of coaching you through is experimentation and doing. This is more of the planning piece of your business. So with this, those activities, they're not that you have to hand them into me every single week and I'll mark them and give you a grade out of, out of 100%. It's more, these are readings to do to supplement your learnings, which should be done over the course of the term. And again, because if you're not sure what questions to ask, or you maybe just feel like you're not quite ready for some of these concepts, it's good to have them ready and available, even if you're not fully ready to complete these activities. But essentially, there will be a weekly chapter between about, I think each one is about like 30 to 40 pages, where you can read it, you can complete the activity, and then you keep these for yourself and keeping them for the foreseeable future, because this is a really good textbook. It's American, so I'll mention which kind of sections not to be worried about, mainly around like business structure and organization. We can skip that chapter. But essentially, this should help you build a traditional business plan either throughout this term or afterwards, but noting you will be doing the readings yourself over the course of this term. And if you have any questions or you want to discuss them, that's when we can work on that. After each workshop, there will be a few with some submissions. And then at the end of the term, there'll be a final presentation, not like an investor pitch deck or anything like that, just more, these were my goals over the term. This is what I did. This is how I developed. Here's how I see myself moving into the future with this business. So I have a really brief schedule here. This is a screenshot of the first half up until reading week, and it outlines the fast track reading. So the chapter that you'll read and do the activity for yourself, and then the workshop that will be paired with it. You'll see as we go through this workshop schedule, the majority of them will be Mondays from 10 until 12. With the one exception being next week, I had our first workshop scheduled for Monday. Monday is a holiday, which I made a bit of an error on. So our first one will be next Friday on Entrepreneurship 101, which will be paired then with the first chapter in Fast Track, Exploring Entrepreneurship. They're all kind of matched up with each other around setting financial goals and pricing and product planning and pitching. But essentially, the majority of your workshops will come within the first 6 weeks of this program. There will be a couple others after reading week as well, which will be more guest speakers that you'll have access to through our other program. And you'll be attending those again online. So we'll start off next week on next Friday with Entrepreneurship 101, which is a crash course in entrepreneurship, everything to do with it. Then we'll have the business model canvas business planning tool, and you'll submit to me by that Friday. We'll talk about pricing and revenue models, how to pitch your business for a lot of different purposes with a submission of 2 different types of pitches. And then we'll talk about forms of business too. I'll be
I have a
sharing with you.
question.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's happening on Monday?
So next Monday is a holiday.
Yeah, what holiday?
It's Victoria Day.
Sorry. So what is Victoria Day?
The Victoria Day is it's a day when the college is closed. I don't know the actual. Lindsay, do you know the history of Victoria Day? I really don't.
It's a statutory holiday. It's celebrating Queen Victoria. I'm not sure why we have
Okay.
it, but it's a statutory holiday. So
Okay. Um,
I
okay,
didn't
so when
even
you say statutory, it means everybody in London doesn't no work, no school on that
Yeah,
day.
pretty
Okay.
well. Like the college will
That's it.
be. I think the
Is all
college is still open technically, but a lot of the services and classes will not be actually.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted it, but now I know.
No,
Thank you.
that's okay.
yeah.
Tiago, did you have a question? It sounded like you're about to say something.
No, it's just gonna be about the Victoria Day, honestly. But
Oh,
I do have a question. So just looking at this, from my understanding, every Monday from 10 to 12, we are to be on a Zoom together, the four. Like this is what we're doing
yeah.
for Monday. Okay, cool. I just want to, all right, because okay.
Yeah, so scheduling around, that's a good question. So yeah, you'll want to schedule things around these workshops.
Okay,
There
cool.
will be some in the after the reading week. There'll be a couple of others that are more sporadic, and I think they'll be on Wednesdays. But by and large, they'll be Mondays 10 to 12, get the workshop out of the way for the week. And then for the business model canvas and the pitching your business, there'll be a submission, which is just what we covered in the workshop. And then we'll talk about it one-on-one for feedback, or I'll send you feedback over email. With the one exception being next week, because Monday is the Victoria holiday, our first workshop will be on the Friday, but there isn't a paired assignment with that anyway. It's just the textbook reading that ideally you would have read before that workshop, since it's on the Friday.
Mhm.
So my
Yeah.
fault. This is going back to the question that I'm just remembering now.
Yeah.
So, you were saying like, oh, like if you have like whatever, like 400 hours and there's like 2 days left, like you guys aren't going to be strict on us about getting that like that next 20 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we
So
want you to make 420 the goal. Like
for sure,
if you have 410 by the end of the term,
for
we're not going to give you a hard time with that. But if you have
sure,
300, like that's quite a bit that you're falling
100%.
short.
Yeah. So when we come on our Zooms, like for these 2 hours for these 2 hours on Monday until
Mhm.
the schedule is saying June 20th or June 16th to 20th. So I'm going off that. Like, are those 2 hours gonna be, so say if that's five Mondays, 10 hours, is
Yep.
that 10 hours gonna be put into our hour log? Like, is that how that works? Or is it that's
Yes,
not
it would
okay.
be. Yeah, that would
Okay.
be part of it, as well as this orientation. You can also count, as well as your one-on-one meetings with myself. That all counts.
So this brings me to my question is, so of course we want to hit the four, like of course we want to hit the 420 mark, right? But
Mhm.
like say if we're at like, I don't know, like say if we're at like 390 or like 395, or say if we're right around that range, like are those like hours from the workshops, like is that gonna fill that gap? Like, does that make sense what I'm trying to say? Like essentially it's not the 420 we need, because we're gonna have like that 10 to 15 hours of meetings throughout the
Yeah.
week. Like, is that essentially right?
Yeah, so the amount of okay, so like if we did some rough like kind of estimates here, so you got six plus the other two, so like that's like 8 times 2, so it's like 16 hours right there in just workshops alone. If you gave
Right.
each workshop reading plus the activity another 2 hours, there's about 10 there at 2 hours. That's about 20 hours. So that would be putting us at about 36 hours total. Then you got meetings. You got to have a minimum of 4 meetings over the course of the term, one per month with your coach. That's another 4 hours. So that's about 40 hours. Then you got your
Okay.
assignment for this workshop plus your assignment for this workshop, probably another hour each. That would put you at about 42 hours total. So
which is a lot. So that
yeah,
so that it okay. So now I understand as to why, like, if we're only at that like 400 or weird
mhm.
395 mark, it's you guys are kind of lenient with it because we've
Yeah,
done
because you've done
whatever.
this work as well too, but you would want to be tracking this in your
Of,
timesheet already, so you don't have to have that work at the end.
oh, like
You
we
know what I
should track all of these in our timesheet as well.
Yeah, yes, yeah. All
Oh,
this is time that is minusing off of that. So if that's like we just approximately calculated 42 hours worth of work, so that would mean you would need about 380 more of actual work in your business.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. This is all
yeah.
making okay.
Anything that
Sorry.
you
I
do,
just really
no, that's
wanted to
okay. This is these are good
yeah,
questions,
okay.
Tiago. Like anything that you
Okay.
do that relates to your business over the course of the next 4 months, you're tracking. A part of that is so yes, we know you're working, but it's also to get you in the habit of tracking your own time when you're like looking at pricing and valuing yourself within your business.
Mm-hmm.
You have to start to be aware of like how long it takes me to do things in my business, so like if I'm going to be paying myself, or how much time management you have to do in order to complete the things that you've done. Like it's twofold. But yeah, you have already about 40-ish hours of things that are predetermined work. I'll give you more work too, like in your one-on-one meetings if I think you need it. That isn't part of this. All of that is trackable, that you're doing. If you're doing some studying of social media and like the competition on there to see like how you're gonna make your own social media strategy, or looking at the ads that they create and kind of being critical with how you're looking at them, that counts too. Like it's anything that you're doing that you can apply back to your business, you want to track that time.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Awesome. And again, if more questions come up through the term of like, do I count this? Just ask. I will tell you. And if I'm not quite sure if that counts, I'll talk to Lindsay and Tracy and we'll figure out like how we can kind of count that.
Cool.
Awesome.
Mm.
Any questions from you, Kelechi, before I move on?
No. I'm fine. Thank you. You've
Okay.
answered. He asked the question I wanted to answer. You've answered. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, these are all good questions. So with that workshop schedule, there is also some additional virtual workshops that I have access to, or sorry, that you have access to through our Leap Junction website. We have some pre-recordings that live there for just general knowledge on general concepts. So you're going to be getting Entrepreneurship 101 in the Business Model Canvas. So 1 and 2 don't worry about as much. But if you have, an idea for something new that you want to see if it's worth pursuing, network mapping, market research, customer segmentation, we have additional recordings that I can always assign to you as well to kind of help you make some new hours. If you are worried about falling short, or if you need more information on certain things, I can send you more educational resources to help kickstart some of that learning and fill some of that time. So just noting that is there and available on our website as well. So as you saw kind of through the schedule and a snapshot, the program deliverables are you'll have a business model canvas due on May 30th after that workshop on the Monday. You'll have a problem and a sales pitch due on June 13th. And then you'll have a 10 to 15-minute presentation at the end scheduled for August 11th online. And again, it'll be about what you completed over the term, not necessarily an investor pitch. So that final presentation, as I did mention, it will include the best version of your elevator pitch or business concept statement, which is something you'll be introduced to in the fast track reading. It'll start kind of with where you began this program in terms of your business and personal development, and where you finished in regards to your business and your personal development, your business model canvas and your business plan, and how or if it changed, what your business and personal goals are for the next 6 months, as well as your biggest win and your biggest learning experience over the course of the semester. I have a full rubric for this final presentation that I'll be sending out to you, usually about a month before the actual presentation begins. And then we'll do our submissions, we'll pitch them live to each other, and that'll be essentially the end of the term. But again, you'll note the date was August 11th. I believe the term goes until the 21st, Lindsay, of August, or is it the 25th?
Last day is August 22nd.
22nd. Okay, so you'll still have another 11 days to be able to actually.
Sorry, is that what you asked?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. So you'll still have additional time after that final presentation if you haven't totally hit all those So in a nutshell, that is the program. There will be some workshops that you attend, some homework you complete, some readings from the textbook. Then outside of that, with your one-on-one coaching meetings with myself, your business is yours to work within, and you know, ideally develop. So with that, I just want to share a little bit more information over one more program. We're a little bit over 11. Are you guys okay to keep going? Because I know I scheduled this
Yeah.
from 10 to 11. Kaylee, you good?
No, I'm good.
So I didn't hear the question.
Oh,
I
are
was
you okay to
reading
keep
the.
going? I scheduled
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
today's call from, okay,
No,
sweet.
no,
Because
no.
I
Let's
scheduled from 10 to
continue.
11, but we've had a lot of questions, so we're a little behind, but that is good because now
It's
this saves us
fine.
time later on.
Okay.
So one other program that I just want to make the two of you aware of is our Leap In Business Accelerator program. So this is one that is open to both current students and also alumni at the college. So it can be used as a co-op credit because it's a summer program, but it can also just be something you apply to extracurricularly as an alumni after you've graduated. Why I mentioned this program is because there are some key differences in it. And we have had quite a few students who have done entrepreneurial co-op and then our business accelerator program in future terms. Sometimes it's the semester after, sometimes it's years later because they're working on a new business or they didn't develop as fast as they wanted within their other ones. Entrepreneurial co-op, as you're likely starting to understand, is a term to experiment and explore and try things within your business within a safe kind of educational environment. Leap In is a way to kind of accelerate that process and take you beyond and ideally launching and growing by the end of that program. So this is something that is available to you in future semesters, either as an alumni or if you have a second co-op sometime in the future that aligns with the summer. So essentially, this program is similar to Entrepreneurial Co-op, but it's at a faster, more accelerated rate, hence the term accelerator. It's to provide both a supportive and hands-on environment in person to both business owners, product services from idea or first year of operation to implementing and growing. So this one is in person and you'd be with us for about 12 to 16 weeks. It varies depending on who's in the program and how much time we think they need. And it runs every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from about 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So applications for this program open every year in the new year. So usually the first or the second week of the winter semester in January, and they stay open until the end of March. So you have about 2 months or sorry, the beginning of March, usually March 1st. Occasionally we'll extend it a week or so, depending on if we need applicants, but usually we don't. We get about 100 applicants for this program every year, and we take 15 actual businesses. So there is quite a bit of competition for this program. And while it is part-time and you're with us 3 days a week, essentially it's a full-time commitment because outside of that program, there is additional homework that you will be completing and working with your customers. So this one, as I mentioned, it's for both current students and alumni who've ever dreamed of starting their own business. And the one really cool thing is that you can also get paid to do so. So in this program, each business that's accepted is able to access up to $5,000 in funding to put towards their business's spending. But in order to receive that money, you're expected to attend at an absolute minimum 90% of the program. So it works out to about 3 absences over the course of the 12 weeks. And those funds can be used to pay yourself, pay employees, access services like a lawyer or an accountant, or develop products and buy inventory or stock or things like that. So similar like entrepreneurial co-op, but to a lot more of an extent, you'll be spending a lot of your days in workshops and activities that support your entrepreneurial. You'll get a very healthy dose of myself again through in this program, as well as our other advisor, David. And then we bring in different mentors, experts, and industry professionals, again, depending on who's in the program, that varies, as a way to round out the knowledge that's delivered through this program. The intent is that really each day you're leaving with something actionable and to do your homework that will help develop your business from early operation or scaling it by the end of the program. A lot of the topics covered are ones that, again, we customize depending on who is in that program each year and what they feel like they need. Myself and David and the LEAP team, we lead you through what is called Lean Startup, which is a very involved process of experimenting to find different flaws in your business model. It's things that I lead you through in Entrepreneurial Co-op, but we go through it at a lot of a faster and deeper rate. And actually, there's money that's spent of that $5,000 actually testing and running advertising for your business to see if you can actually find your customers. Some of those guest speakers, though, will come in and talk to us about, how to access funding through different organizations, how to do B2C and B2B sales, setting up QuickBooks, business taxation. We'll bring in a lawyer to talk about intellectual property. There'll be branding and storytelling, the business model canvas, CRM, lots of additional things that are a good way to sell. So as I mentioned, this program, the application opens in the new year. So first or second week of January and goes until about March 1st. So if this is something where it's this business that you're working on now, you want to give it more time and attention over the course of 12 to 16 weeks, or if you have another business in the future, because let's say maybe this one, you decide you don't want to do it, or there's another business that you hope to start, you can apply to this program in the new year as well. So we always have to do that kind of shameless self program because we have had quite a few entrepreneurial club students that complete that program, then do the accelerator. So similar in design, but it's in person. There's more fun kind of summer camp elements to it, and the additional funding, hence why we get so many applicants for it each year. So with that, we're about at the end of today's orientation. So I'll be sending out an onboarding email with all the resources, all the things that I mentioned throughout today's orientation session. Your homework for today is really to book your first intake meeting with your advisor, which is yours truly, to start brainstorming an industry mentor if you feel like you need one. It's not a mandatory requirement for this program. And if you're thinking that you might, but you're not sure who to talk to, I can always connect you with somebody, probably Nicole, who will be making herself available to answer some of those industry fashion business questions. We'll start to brainstorm some of your goals for the semester and complete that work term agreement if it's not already been completed. And you can start reading the fast track textbook as early as you hope. So you don't have to wait each week to start doing those activities and doing those readings. You can begin whenever you feel like you're ready. So I would want to just say, for booking your meetings, I will be the most available on Mondays and Fridays. And I actually saved some time for both of you to do your intake meetings this Friday. Would that work for the two of you? Like, we're not going to be meeting together. Like, I meet with you, Kelechi, one-on-one, and then you, Tiago, one-on-one. Are you guys wanting me to keep holding that space so we can set your first meeting for this Friday?
Sure.
100%.
For me, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess then, do you guys have a preference of time? I have in my calendar, I'll stop the recording too.